The Insurrection Act, America's most dangerous emergency power. Restructured, high-impact long-form script. What exactly is the Insurrection Act, and why does this 200-year-old law suddenly dominate search trends whenever America faces chaos? Right now, across the United States, millions of people are searching the same urgent question again and again. What is the Insurrection Act, and why does it matter so much? Because hidden inside this old piece of legislation is a power so extreme that, if triggered, it can instantly transform civilian streets into federally controlled zones. The Insurrection Act of 1807 is a federal law that allows the President of the United States to deploy the U.S. military inside the country, against its own population, under specific conditions. This has nothing to do with foreign enemies. This is about domestic unrest. Under normal circumstances, American law draws a hard line between military power and civilian life. Soldiers do not patrol U.S. streets. Tanks do not roll through cities. Local police answer to local governments. Governors control their National Guard. But the Insurrection Act breaks that wall. If the president determines that a state is unable or unwilling to enforce federal law or protect constitutional rights, the president can override the governor and deploy federal troops directly into that state. No vote. No court order. No immediate approval from Congress. That is why legal scholars describe it as one of the most dangerous emergency powers in American law. Historically, the Insurrection Act has only been used during moments of extreme national stress, when civil order had clearly collapsed. Abraham Lincoln relied on its authority during the Civil War to suppress rebellion and maintain the Union. In 1957, President Dwight Eisenhower invoked it to enforce school desegregation in Arkansas after state officials refused to comply with federal law. In 1992, President George H.W. Bush used it during the Los Angeles riots when local law enforcement was overwhelmed by mass violence. Each time, the justification was the same. Civil authority had failed. But in the modern era, the fear surrounding the Insurrection Act has grown, not because it has been used more often, but because the context has changed. During nationwide protests and riots, particularly after unrest in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Insurrection Act re-entered public debate with force. Major news outlets, legal analysts, and political media, including voices at Huffington Post, openly questioned whether the act might be invoked again. Former President Donald Trump publicly stated that he had the authority to deploy troops if states failed to control unrest. Although the Insurrection Act was ultimately not invoked, the fact that it was seriously considered sent shockwaves through the country. Because once the Insurrection Act is triggered, everything changes immediately. Federal troops can replace local police. Military command overrides civilian authority. Curfews, checkpoints, and force escalation become legally possible. Civil liberties groups warn that the law's language is deliberately broad. It does not clearly define what qualifies as an insurrection. It leaves interpretation almost entirely in the hands of the president. That means protests, riots, or even widespread civil disobedience could theoretically be framed as justification. Supporters of the law argue the opposite. They claim the Insurrection Act exists for one reason only. When states collapse and constitutional rights are no longer protected, the federal government must act. From that perspective, the law is not authoritarian, it is a last resort safeguard. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The Insurrection Act was written in 1807, long before modern media, modern protest movements, modern surveillance, and instant nationwide panic. It was designed for a very different America. And yet, it still exists, largely unchanged. That is why every time unrest spreads, the name resurfaces. Not because the act has been invoked, but because it could be. The Insurrection Act is not symbolic. It is not subtle. It is a declaration that the federal government believes civil order has failed. And once that declaration is made, there is no rewind button. So when you see Insurrection Act trending in search results, understand this clearly. It is not just a legal term. It is a red flag in American democracy. A reminder that stability is fragile. And a warning that extraordinary powers still sit unused, waiting.
We hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to stay updated moment by moment with trending and breaking topics from around the world, make sure to follow Google Trends, subscribe, and share. We bring you the latest trends, viral stories, and hot news every day so you never miss out on the most interesting and current topics worldwide. Your subscribe and follow motivate us to keep delivering more exciting and trending content directly to you. Thank you very much for watching Google Trends.